are. Some days feel short, yet they carry so much weight. Today was one of those days. It started like any ordinary morning, plain, quiet, and completely predictable. But somewhere along the line, the routine broke. Are. A small moment shifted everything, and a simple Tuesday turned into a day I will probably remember for a long time. If you are sitting here right now, watching this with a warm cup of tea or coffee, take a deep breath. Slow down with me. R. Let us talk about today, step by step, piece by piece. The alarm went off at 6:15. The sound buzzed through the quiet room, harsh and insistent. I did not move right away. I just lay there in the dark, watching the faint gray light crawl slowly across the bedroom ceiling. R. The room was cold. My blanket felt heavy, warm, and comfortable. Outside my window, the city was slowly waking up. I heard the distant hum of a delivery truck, the rhythmic sweeping of a broom on the pavement below, and a bird chirping softly on the wire. R. It felt peaceful, but also heavy, like the day was waiting for me to make the first move. I finally dragged myself out of bed. My feet touched the cold wooden floor and a sharp chill ran up my spine. Routine is a funny thing. It keeps us moving when we are too tired to think. R. I walked to the bathroom, washed my face with ice-cold water, and looked in the mirror for a few seconds. The reflection looked tired, familiar, and slightly uninspired. I walked to the kitchen on autopilot. R. I filled the electric kettle with water, pressed the button, and waited for the faint red light to turn on. The water began to rumble, soft at first, then growing louder. I stood there, leaning against the kitchen counter, staring at the small pattern on the wall tiles. R. My mind was completely blank. Then came the first small glitch of the day. As I reached into the upper cabinet for my favorite ceramic mug, my sleeve caught on the handle of a glass sitting on the edge. It wobbled, slid off the shelf, and crashed onto the floor. R. The sound was deafening in the quiet morning. Shards of clear glass shattered across the dark kitchen tiles. I froze. I just stood there, holding my breath, looking down at the mess. R. It was just a glass, a cheap one I had bought years ago, but in that quiet moment it felt like a dramatic signal. It felt like the day was whispering, "You think today is going to be normal, think again." I crouched down slowly and began picking up the larger pieces, one by one. R. I was careful, but my hands were still stiff from sleep. I wrapped the sharp fragments in an old newspaper, folded it neatly, and threw it in the trash can. I got the broom, swept the tiny splinters into a dustpan, wiped the floor with a damp cloth, and finally poured my coffee. R. But the mood had shifted. The quiet rhythm of my morning was broken. I sat on the small balcony, holding my warm mug, watching the yellow sun rise above the gray rooftops. The coffee tasted slightly bitter today. Usually, by 8 in the morning, I am already sitting at my desk. R. I open my laptop, check my emails, review my long to-do list, and start working immediately. I have done this every single day for months, almost without thinking. But today, after finishing my coffee, I sat at my desk and looked at the dark screen. I did not want to open R. I felt this strange, heavy resistance in my chest. Have you ever felt that way, where your body just refuses to follow your usual track, no matter how hard you push? I closed my eyes for a moment. I listened to the small fan buzzing in the corner. R. I looked at the long list of tasks written on my notepad. Edit the new video, reply to client messages, order groceries online, clean the hallway light fixture, organize the file folders. Everything was so urgent, yet none of it felt important. I made a sudden decision. R. It was impulsive, completely out of character for me. I stood up, put on my jacket, grabbed my keys, and walked out of the front door. I left my computer running. I left my phone on silent on the desk. I just walked out into the hallway. R. The morning air outside my building was crisp, sharp, and cold. Walking down my street at 8:30 without a specific destination felt strange, almost illegal. Everyone around me was rushing. R. People were running to catch the bus, holding their helmets, sipping warm drinks in a hurry, checking their watches every few seconds. I was the only person standing still, walking at a slow pace, looking around at the buildings. R. I took a left turn at the end of my alley, a path I usually never take because it leads away from the main road. My city is loud, fast, and crowded, but if you take a wrong turn on purpose, you find these hidden, quiet pockets that feel detached from modern time. R. I walked down a narrow lane lined with old brick houses. The walls were stained with soft green moss, and wooden balconies hung over the street. The air smelled of damp earth, burning firewood, and fresh pastries. A small bakery was open on the corner. R. An old man in a faded blue apron was pulling fresh loaves of bread from a stone oven. The warm steam drifted out into the cool street. I stopped in front of the bakery window. I bought a small piece of hot bread, wrapped in a thin paper napkin. It was so hot it burned my fingertips through the paper. I walked a little further and sat on a low concrete wall near a small, neglected neighborhood park. I ate the bread slowly, chewing every single bite, enjoying the warmth. It was simple, plain, but it felt like the best thing I had eaten in weeks. As I sat there, a stray dog walked up to me from across the grass. He had dusty brown fur, a white chest, and one torn ear. He did not bark or whine. He just stood there, looking at me with calm, tired eyes. I broke off a small piece of the warm bread and dropped it carefully in front of him. He sniffed it, ate it silently, and then sat down right next to my feet. We sat together on that curb for nearly 20 minutes, a stranger and a stray dog, just watching the morning move past us. Cars sped by on the main street in the distance. School children walked past in blue uniforms, laughing, shouting, and playing tag. Neither of us moved. It was a very quiet moment, but it felt deeply profound. In the middle of all the noise, I felt completely present in my own body. Around 10 o'clock, the skies began to darken rapidly. Heavy, bruised clouds rolled in quickly from the hills behind the city. The wind picked up speed, rustling the dry leaves on the pavement and swirling dust into the air. I realized I had no umbrella with me. I had left the house without preparing for any change in weather. Rain started to fall, first as heavy, scattered drops that made loud thuds on the tin roofs, then as a sudden, violent downpour. I ran quickly under the awning of an old, closed bookstore. The roof was leaking slightly, dripping cold water onto my right shoulder. The street transformed in minutes. Water rushed down the stone gutters, creating small yellow rivers along the curb. Cars splashed through deep puddles, sending sheets of gray water onto the sidewalks. I was stuck. I could not go back, and I could not go forward without getting completely soaked. At first, I felt a strong surge of frustration. I thought about my work waiting at home, my missed calls, my ruined schedule for the rest of the day. I was getting wet, my shoes were absorbing water, and I was stranded in a neighborhood I barely knew. But then, as I stood there listening to the heavy roar of the rain hitting the metal roof, the frustration just dissolved. There was nothing I could do to fix it. I could not stop the clouds, I could not speed up time. I was forced to stand still and wait. Being forced to wait is a rare gift these days. We are so used to controlling everything, ordering food in minutes, getting answers in seconds, rushing from one task to another without breathing. But standing under that tiny shop awning, watching the water cascade down the corrugated metal roof, I realized how powerless we actually are, and how liberating that powerlessness can be. I leaned my back against the cool glass window of the bookstore and just watched the storm wash the street clean. An elderly woman was trapped under the same awning with me, holding a heavy cloth shopping bag filled with fresh green vegetables. She looked at me, smiled softly, and sighed. She said, "The weather never listens to the forecast these days." I laughed and agreed with her. We started talking about the sudden rain. She told me she had lived in this specific neighborhood for over 40 years. She remembered when this entire street was just a dirt path flanked by large bamboo trees and small fish ponds. She spoke about her grandchildren, her small rooftop garden, and how the city had grown around her while she stayed in the same small house. Her voice was soft, slightly raspy, like old paper rustling in the wind. Listening to her was deeply comforting. It was a conversation I never planned to have, with a person I would never have met if I had stayed at my desk, following my routine like a robot. We stood there for almost 45 minutes, talking about nothing and everything. When the rain finally slowed down to a gentle drizzle, she reached into her bag and offered me a small green apple. I tried to refuse, but she insisted, pressing it into my hands with a firm, warm grip. I thanked her from the bottom of my heart and stepped out onto the wet street. The air after the heavy rain was incredible. It smelled clean, washed, and sharp with the scent of wet cement, dirt, and crushed leaves. My shoes were completely soaked, my jeans were damp at the bottom, but I felt oddly light as I walked. I walked back toward my apartment building slowly, taking my time, stepping around the larger puddles, enjoying the cool breeze on my face. When I finally got back to my apartment, it was nearly 1 in the afternoon. The flat was quiet, dark, and still, just as I had left it hours ago. The half-swept glass was still in the trash can. My laptop was still sitting open on the desk, its screen dark and in sleep mode. Everything was exactly the same, yet the atmosphere inside the room felt